Welcome to Moonbeaming, a podcast about lunar living, magic, creativity, tarot, and more. I'm your host, Sarah Faith Gottesdiener, and I'm so honored and excited to be here with you today. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the show, and welcome to the very last episode of Season 4. It's been a beautiful, almost 5-month run, and I am so incredibly grateful to you for being here. I am so incredibly grateful to my patrons for making this show feasible and a possibility financially. This is totally independent media. I'm incredibly grateful to all the wonderful guests for being so generous with their time, knowledge, and wisdom. And I'm incredibly grateful to the people who help this show exist. Maddie, Hazel, and Rose. Everything that everyone creates exists because of so many other people. No one exists in a vacuum. No one creates in a vacuum. Humans are supposed to collaborate. And really, we are supposed to need one another. And I believe we are supposed to revel in that need, even if it feels uncomfortable, or even if it feels mysterious. I take breaks from this podcast for many reasons. When I rest, when I give things a rest, things don't tend to feel stale. And I always want certain things that I do to feel fresh. I always want to come back to doing them and be excited about it, or looking forward to it, or enjoy certain things in a particular way and have that energy flow through. For example, when I sit down to record, I would like you to feel my energy of wanting to sit down and record and be with you. That's how I want to feel, at least, if that makes sense. And the other reason is I want to normalize rest. I want to model rest and breaks and pauses. I've been thinking so much about the expectations we have on one another in terms of output, the expectations we have of ourselves, and how unreasonable a lot of it, or some of it, is. We are not machines. We have limits. And I think a lot about how much we just accept certain trends or patterns because of consumerism or technology. We accept that we're supposed to post on social media 5 times a week for our business, or we accept that we're supposed to send out tweets every single minute, or we accept that you have to send out your Substack or your podcast or your newsletter weekly or even twice a week. And I'm talking about something I've been examining in my own life and in my own self and in my own business, by the way. Like, I'm trying to rearrange some of that. But a lot of us will accept a machine-like output, and I'm talking to people who run their own businesses and do their own thing, or who are creatives, who are artists, right? I think it's different for other people, but maybe others have their own relationship with it. So we accept this sort of machine-like output because corporations have that. Your favorite brand has that. Your favorite influencer or rock star, who all have teams behind that. And some of us who work for themselves or run businesses might think they have to do that too. So I'm sort of like unpacking all of this in real time. And I know that breaks, rests are necessary for me. I want to be really intentional about what I share and why I share it. And I would always like my intention to be as clear as possible and connected as possible to what I am sharing. Even when that intention is I'm really tired or something like that. But that leads me to the divine timing of this break. I already was going to break in August because I want to pour everything I have into my upcoming series, Resourcing the Creative Self. It's a workshop series. I cannot wait to begin. I cannot wait to gather with everyone. It begins August 28th, so you can join us there. And when I am facilitating, when I'm teaching live, I'm very available to everyone who is enrolled. And I can't do all the things when I'm holding space for that community in real time, and nor would I want to. So that's another reminder, gentle listener, you can do everything you would like, maybe just not at the same time. And part of being a witch is being able to discern what makes sense and in what order, not only within your own rhythms and like within your own unique nature or your own unique process, energetic capabilities, what intuitively comes through, where you might be conceptually, what your current life curriculum is, and so on and so forth, but also in the larger rhythms of nature that are happening all around you, in the larger pulse of the collective and our collective themes, because we are in relationship with so much more than ourselves. And of course, our relationship with ourself is at the core. And of course, our self relationship changes based on who we are and what we are becoming and what we are learning and what we need. And I have to say, getting COVID after years and years of doing everything within my capabilities to not get it, now getting it almost a month ago and having had a long, pretty rocky recovery. I mean, like no control over my energy. The acute symptoms that everyone talks about are definitely there. Major setbacks for me. It's really forcing me to reflect on what I want to give energy to and how I want to give that energy to certain things and also larger life questions. I'm going to come back absolutely for season 5, as well as next year. The life force of this project wants me to go through the chariot year, at least that's the message I got when I began. But as my energy changes and where I'm at changes, this project will change, like everything else I'm doing. And I sort of feel like the chariot year is coming a little early for me. For all of you astro buffs, I'm actually in a Mars year that just started. Fun. But anyway, I feel like chariot came a little early because chariot asks us to navigate change with expertise, refinement, discernment, and care. And I really want to acknowledge my capacities, my limited capacities, my changed capacities, my changing capacities, at least right now, and use that as a catalyst for the next phase. And I know this might be a little bit TMI, but here we are. This time now, this recovery time, for me personally, it reminds me very much of the time period when I got my chronic leukemia diagnosis. I have a genetic mutation of the bone marrow, So I already exist with very serious illness, very serious symptoms. It reminds me of the gift, the complex, mixed blessing of finally, after 7 years of doctors and thousands of dollars in medical bills, of receiving the diagnosis. Because not that I wasn't sitting with my life previously, but that diagnosis, that really serious diagnosis, made me sit with my life in a different way, let's just say. And what came out of that was many moons, really the basis of my business, a lot of the last 7 years of my life. It took 7 years for me to get a diagnosis. It's been 7 years since. That's also when like many moons started. And now it's 7 years later. It's the number of the chariot, the number of years it takes to regenerate, individuate, and recovering from this virus is forcing me to radically change on a cellular level. But first, I have to recover and rest more while also doing certain things I have to do, because probably similar to you, if I don't work, I don't survive. I can't survive, right? And that's been a really real reminder for me this year as I've taken off time to attend to death and funerals. One of the most important person in my life died this year. I've taken time because I literally could not work. I was too sick to work. And I'm sure that either you know someone who has been in this position the last few years, you know many people who've been in these positions in the last few years, or you yourself has been in this position in the last few years. So again, I'm right here with you, figuring it out, going through all of it. All right. Before I move on to the topic of this week's show, I wanted to pick our tarot review winner. As a reminder, everyone who writes a review for this show on Apple Podcasts is eligible to receive a free 30-minute tarot reading with me as a deep thanks. Every month, a new person gets picked. And this month, I wanted to do something special. So I went back to a year ago to see if anyone had left a review for this date a year ago. And guess what? There were two people, two reviewers. So there are two tarot recipients this month. And they are Big Stuff 40, all one word, Big Stuff 40, and Lyette. I don't know how to pronounce it. It's Lyetti. Both of you left a review on August 18th, 2021. There's some time magic for you. So please contact our studio so we can set up a reading. Thank you all again. And if you'd like to leave a review, you can do that on Apple Podcasts. Now, on to this week's show, which is all about creative channeling and the gifts of becoming a vessel. I wanted to talk about the magical art of channeling for a number of reasons. And also, there's really a lover's year reason for this, of course. And at the very least, I hope that this episode will ground you back into love, back into exploring love, with opening up to experience and divine energy. Another lover's topic that this touches on is about creative flow and new combinations of that and new relationships within that. In the Lover's card, we are reminded that when two energies show up, they create a third energy. 1 + 1 is 3. And that reminds us of our energetic and literal accountability and responsibility. That which is ours, that which is not ours, sphere of influence, which is what we can control, what is out of our control. And this remembrance reminds us to get back into our own garden, to get back into our own lane, and to feel comfortable enough to explore and experience our own energy and our own brilliance, which is absolutely easier said than done. It's about sourcing from ourselves and enjoying that, which is some of what we've been exploring in many of my classes and many of my energetic sessions and gatherings this year. This reminder that 1 + 1 is 3 speaks on this truth that we are always greater together, and that more possibilities emerge when those who show up in their energy, in their brilliance, with their intention intact, in full consciousness, in the present moment. It's only with our conscious self that we can safely access and dialogue with the subconscious, the superconscious, the collective conscious. Otherwise, when we are more in the unconscious, or if we are on automatic, we don't know what's ours and what's not. And that can be a real source of confusion, struggle, conflict, manipulation, violence, and so on. Abuse is super complicated, obviously. There are so many origins and reasons for it that are incredibly complex. So this is like a huge subject. And one of the origins of abuse is because people are operating from the unconscious or subconscious, and they believe they are totally separate from one another. If you believe you are completely separate from someone or something else, this belief makes it much easier to cause harm and to not have any accountability to anyone else, or even accountability within yourself. If you can be conscious and use the thought experiment of, well, what if this person or this tree is not separate from me? And what if what I do to them, I do to myself? What if what I do to them will also influence many other people I don't know, people they come into contact with? That question, that meditation before we act, that can change what we do, and that can change the energy all around it. This helps us become more intentional. It helps us to name what we don't own also, and what we are not responsible for, which is a theme of this time, absolutely, and will reach, like, it'll tea kettle boil at points next year, right? Because conflict can show us a lot. Conflict is not abuse. Hurt feelings are not harm. And for those of us who are more conscious, right, we have to begin our own processes, our longer, more winding processes of separating feelings from facts, or discerning what is our subconscious or what is our unconscious bias, negative bias. What are our unhealed wounds? What are those, and what is the present? What is actually happening? We have to do all of this in order to be in deeper relationship and really innovate and move forward, which are all chariot themes. And we do this with one another. And we do this within ourselves. I hope this little segue kind of can help you see how Lovers sets things up for Chariot. I often say that in the order of the major arcana, the card after it can help to heal the shadow of the card before it. We have to be in deep relationship. We have to understand desires. We have to be vulnerable. We have to regard ourselves and our brilliance. We have to understand there are many truths. There is never just one truth. We shouldn't even be looking for one truth, really, as far as I'm concerned, but that's a story for another day. We have to see the mirror clearly to get this clearer reflection and recognize that everyone and or everything can be our mirror, while also recognizing the sovereignty and sacredness within everyone or everything. Meaning, I'm not just looking to see how my dog is a mirror of me, right? Like, I am trying at least to understand and be with my dog in totality, in the present moment, without biases or expectations. And also, it's the both and also understanding my dog has their own consciousness, their own intelligence, their own life, their own personality, their own wants, their own wishes, their own desires, and so on and so forth, right? In order to recalibrate, regroup, do something totally different, to become a channel on wheels, essentially, which is what ends up happening in Lovers to Chariot, right? And Lovers, you're a channel in the garden. You're a channel in your brilliance. You're a channel through love, through growth. You're a channel in also sometimes like more intimate processes and relationships. And in the Chariot card, you are a channel and a vessel in movement, in motion. This is complex. It's nuanced. Obviously, we'll be exploring more of this in my classes. A lot of my work explores this. I think it's witchcraft, so I explore it a lot. And also, of course, on this here podcast next year. All of us are channels. All of us have the ability to channel. You don't have to go to a school or have someone tell you this is your path, or you don't have to not be in pain or not be in sweatpants or whatever in order to channel, in order to be a channel. Once upon a time, once upon a lily pad, I received this message. It was not from me. That there was this alternative world, or there's this future world, or there's this multiverse where every single person is this adept, wise channeler. And that we not only listen to ourselves, we not only listen to spirits or plants or planets or art or whatever it is we're channeling, we absolutely respect and listen to ourselves first and at the forefront. That's our intuition. And also in this multiverse, we can listen to other people's channelings and respect them as well. And I was shown this really beautiful world, this really beautiful, metaverse where people were learning and growing from one another, and people weren't agreeing also. Like, they were like, oh yeah, that's really interesting. Like, this message that's coming forth. And also, it's not for me. And to me, this reaffirms that all of us are vessels and conduits, whether we're in bed, whether we can't move, whether if we're on a stage, maybe we're twerking our sweet, sweet booty. We all have the ability. We have to decide how we want to prime our vessels. And there's another Lover's theme I wanted to bring up here about being a clear channel, being a gift to yourself and the universe, and that's input. If you have been feeling lost or you feel like you cannot connect to your intuition, reflect upon your input versus output ratio. Do you consume more media, more pictures, more art, more information about the world, about astrology or spirituality or what you need to be doing with your life according to other people? Do you consume more than you create? And when you do create, what's the energy and or intention you are creating for? Like, who or what is your creation for? If when you wake up, the first thing you do is, I don't know, I mean, many people's first thing they do is look at their phone, right? You look at your phone and you open your app and you mark down what the transits are, and then you read what someone else's interpretation of it is, or many people's interpretation as it is, and then you hop on social media. Your intuition is completely gone. That's not, you're inputting, right? You're inputting. That is not going to help your intuition. You're looking, you're seeking. It's a different kind of energy. That's already scattering your energy. It's taking you away from your own knowing, your own experience. One of the many themes I discussed about this year is distractions, media, consumption, the speed of this, what we are consuming and why, and the way we're consuming it, and where in the state of our body and our nervous system. All of this is going to affect your mental and emotional health. It's going to affect your body. It's also going to affect your intuition and your ability to channel and your ability to be a creator. So if you're feeling like, oh, maybe this tracks, maybe this makes sense, try creating more than you consume for a while, alongside just being more intentional with what you're consuming and why. Maybe you read a book instead of going on the internet, or maybe instead of listening to podcasts, yes, I said it there, I said it. Maybe you listen to soothing music or your favorite albums for a couple weeks, or just something different, right? Maybe you go within. The internet, it's not going to go anywhere. This podcast is not going anywhere, promise. Because channeling is an art form. It's about experiencing and exploring a different kind of energy, being both open enough and contained enough, being able to have a strong enough energetic field and boundary that you know yourself and you can discern, while also being able to receive and take in, while also being able to alchemize through those two states and flow states. It's about a practice of being centered enough in yourself to explore different states, frequencies, and energies. And in order to do that, we have to be able to source from ourself. We have to be able to be a vessel of a particular kind. And we have to understand that this is for us to experience. And it's also a chance to commune with the universe, or whatever you want to call where we are, and be embedded in the universe in a particular kind of way. And in order to be in this particular kind of way, we have to get out of our own way. We have to remove or have the doubting or disbelieving parts of our ego step aside. The controlling part of us has to step aside. The part of us that needs to know exactly what's going to happen and why has to be able to step aside. We have to allow, which means we have to be okay with receiving, which means we also have to have a kind of understanding or very strong intention of what we are channeling or communing with, a strong relationship with that. And we also need trust and belief. We don't have to know what it is for necessarily, although we can absolutely have intentions. I do it all the time. This is how many moons gets to your doorstep, is I'm channeling what's happening next year, and I'm channeling support. And also we can just do it for fun, for interest. It can be mysterious. We can process our experiences later or never. Channeling is a chance to open up to possibilities, ideas, thoughts, messages, experiences we most likely wouldn't be able to do on our own. And if we are intentionally channeling, which I only recommend you do for a number of different reasons, it can also be part of a devotional practice to a deity, an element, a planet, an energy like abundance or peace, an animal like one of your animal helpers, or God or goddess. Channeling reminds us we're source and we're a part of something greater. We are creation experiencing itself, which we can understand once we go back to that accountability, responsibility, energetic hygiene, 1 + 1 = 3, that I began this episode with. You can absolutely also use it in magic for really interesting results. I love doing that. Today I wanted to just share a little nugget, a little morsel about how I've been using art and creativity and channeling for a healing technique. I've been sharing about how we can collaborate with archetypes, avatars, creativity, art in order to heal, to repair some cracks, to tend to aspects of our psyche or parts work, subconscious, our shadow, whatever you would like to call it, all of it, or like aspects of ourselves we might have abandoned or we might have neglected, which we all do. I wanted to share my own experience because I've never heard this talked about anywhere. I'm sure it's happened before. I'm not special, but it was really personal to me and it came through process. And this is also an example of how supportive a lot of magical and creative practices are. And this is also a reminder that we have to do them. We have to practice them. We have to be in relationship with them. We have to try them. We have to experiment with them. We have to, hang out with them. We can't just read a book. We have to try the thing, right? So this stemmed from the last Resourcing the Creative Self that I taught in springtime. Every time I teach a class, I am right there with you. I'm taking the class. I'm doing the suggestions, I'm reflecting on the prompts and so on. And so when it was time, in the first week we talk about archetypes and what archetypes we want to work with, when it was time for me to think about the archetypes I was gravitating towards, that always comes really easy. It's actually it's hard for me to decide just one. I'm a total maximalist. Are you one of those people? I have a confession to make. I will take, herbalists say you're supposed to just take one tincture or herb at a time, slowly, and get to know it and be in a relationship. I will take 2 or 3 all at once. I'm sorry if you're an herbalist and you're listening to this and you're judging me right now, but I'm kind of a maximalist. I kind of like these combinations of things. So anyway, never hard for me to choose what I want. Had that part down. This time I tried something different and I reflected on what archetype I really did not resonate with. like really not as intense as repulsion, but like really the archetype that was so unrelatable and so not interesting to me. And through that, I had a real aha. The archetype that did not resonate with me at all and like has never really resonated with me is the archetype called the innocent. I had never related to that archetype. In Jungian psychology, there are 12 archetypes that most are used, although there's many archetypes, and I go into this in great depth in the class, so I'm not going to do it here. But a quick overview of the innocent is they're seeking harmony. They want others to feel safe. They want to feel safe. They also tend to want things that the over culture or dominant culture does not encourage, like vulnerability, connection, intimacy, checking in, care, beauty. They are this like eternal optimist. It's sort of like the Fool meets the Page of Cups meets the Queen of Cups, kind of meets the Six of Cups, sort of. Again, we're having a bouquet. They maybe like some part of them never quite grew up. They're sort of that kid at heart, the one that like kids love to be around, animals love to be around. And spoiler alert, of course, one of the reasons I could not identify easily with the innocent archetype is because a lot of my wounds are there. A lot of my personal healing has to do with feeling safe or experiencing trust or getting to daydream, wanting everyone to feel safe, wanting everyone to be honest, wanting everyone to be kind and caring. It's very Shire vibes, you know? It's very like, I don't know. It's idyllic. It's obviously not reasonable, you know, but it's there. And that was the part or one of the parts that got wounded for me, you know, not only in childhood, but over the years, as happens. You know, I am not, again, this has happened to many people. I know this all sounds so basic, but gentle listener, I was floored when I realized that was what was going on. And when I figured that out, I thought about the longings of the innocent, which is to express honest emotions and thoughts without any kind of guardedness. Another longing of this archetype is to play, to find beauty, enjoy beauty, create beauty, to be seen, accepted, appreciated for who they are outside of any extractive kind of relationship. For my better boundaries babes, for those of you who took better boundaries, this archetype probably would show up for you if you are a parentified child, because a lot of us had to turn that more childlike, that more innocent, naive part of ourselves off in order to survive. And in fact, that is a part that many of us have to turn off in order to survive. Finding ways to express ourselves freely and to feel safe to do so is really key to reconnecting with that aspect of ourselves. And we absolutely can do that with art. I was also struck when I was like looking back on some of my creative training, which was graduate design school, which is the opposite of the Shire. Not a wonderful place for an innocent archetype to thrive. If you know, I won't go into it, but like our creativity and our shadow and our wounds, they get a bit mangled when you are feverishly creating in competition and having to create, make, and basically only receiving negative feedback that also has to do with you as a person, because that's what they did in my graduate design school. I don't want to get into too much detail. I'm kind of getting off track here. So I want to get back. Gentle reminder, you are not what you create. You are not what you create. And if someone conflates those two and uses something you've created as a way to make you feel bad about yourself and takes it there, maybe check in and understand there are some other things going on. So, an aspect, a layer, a part of connecting to and healing this part of my creative self through connecting to this innocent archetype is to make art from that innocent place. Not for a purpose, not for anything, not for public consumption, but simply to channel and express that aspect of myself, to channel with that aspect of myself, and to explore that creative energy. And that's what I did. It was activating. I'm not going to get into it now, but I kept with it, let myself make art from this place, and not surprisingly, the art, it was pretty childlike. And I have an aspect of my work myself that's childlike. It's super simple, really unrefined, and it made me realize that to do it enough to feel safe and have that expression be enough in itself, for me now, was part of a creative healing practice. And the first step can be, if you're like interested in trying this for yourself, can be making art from that place, channeling from that place, that childlike, silly, innocent, exploratory space. And of course, there are other deities or energies that correlate. I think of the sun, I think of Mercury, I think of seeds, I think of the Fool in the tarot, the pages, again, the Six of Cups, and so on. And exploring staying in that energy in other aspects of your life. Maybe you consume children's picture books, or maybe you watch some cartoons or anime or something like that. There could be some repair there for you. For me, it's also about healing my inner perfectionist as well as time magic. Because when we're young children, our relationship with time and our relationship with making is, in my experience, is quite different than when we're adults. And when I spend time in that channel and that energy consistently, gently, slowly, I get to connect with an aspect of myself that I felt like I had to hide. And when I make art in that energy and receive the experience of creating the art in that energy, meaning I don't judge it. It's not for anything or anyone. It's just like for play. It's for fun. It's sensuality. There's no end goal. In fact, I throw a lot of it out. I've burnt it in ritual. But channeling this energy in this way, connecting to it, it's been restorative. It's been reparative in a way I can't really language. It's also supported me in new moon energy, beginnings, fresh starts, which is an energy I also don't feel very resonant with or comfortable with. And now I am developing that relationship. So hopefully this inspires you to take a look at your own archetypes, the archetypes you would like to connect to, and maybe an archetype you don't really want to, but it could open up some information about maybe what wants to be acknowledged, what wants to be loved, accepted, and encouraged as a way to find repair, as a strategy or suggestion for your creative process, especially if it has felt elusive. Try to connect to that energy and channel that energy creatively. See how it feels to make work or be in flow with that energy. See if that energy wants to flow out into a magical practice or connect you with helpers or deities and so on. And maybe it can also help you as you transform into your next emergent self, which is a topic that we explore and practice in resourcing the creative self, utilizing creativity and magic to transform, to create new chapters. I'm really interested in exploring intersections between art, magic, process, ritual, symbolism, transformation, and this workshop series covers that. There are awesome guest teachers, there's an amazing creative community, and it's just a lovely time. So if you want to learn more about it and join us, click the link in the show notes. It's the last time this particular series will be offered this year. If you've been wanting to go deep, if you've been wanting to explore things with me, practice channeling, integrate archetypal work, flow states, a lot of the practices I've been talking about, this is your opportunity. I share a lot in this podcast for sure. We go much deeper. I also share a lot of tried and true practices in my workshops, and that's where I pour all my energy, and you will definitely see some movement and opening in your creative intuitive life. If you sign up, it starts in 10 days. There are also so many offerings from the studio going on. As long as you are on our newsletter, you should know that my newsletter is free. We send out weekly newsletters filled with musings, info, good stuff, education, on and on and on. The link is always in the show notes. That's the place you'll find me. And it's also where you will hear about pre-orders for Many Moons. You will hear about early bird discounts. You'll be the first to find out always. People on the newsletter are always the first people to find out what's going on. And of course, then also the Patreon. So, all right, patrons, thank you. You'll be receiving monthly episodes while we prepare for season 5, as well as the monthly tarot polls, discussion threads, meditations, all the other past episodes, and so much more, because I love you so much. I couldn't do this without you. And gentle listener, thank you so much for being here. I am so honored. I am so grateful. It's been absolutely wonderful season, and I'll be back soon. I'll be back this year. So I am wishing you so many blessings. I'm sending you so much love. Take excellent care of yourselves and excellent care of each other. Moon Beaming is brought to you by the Moon Studio. It is created and hosted by me, Sarah Faith Gottesdiener. It is edited by Rose Blakelock with a lot of additional help from Hazel Frew. It is supported by our beautiful patrons, which you can join over at patreon.com, The Moon Studio. If you would like to further support the podcast, you can sign up for a sponsorship. You can rate and review it or share it with your friends or on your social media. Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate you so much.